so you can play.
Hey everybody, Matthew and Leland here from MiniWarGaming.com, back with more Adeptus Mechanicus review videos. We've already made a couple of these covering the basic weapons that come, at least in the White Dwarf edition 61, issue 61. And then we've already talked in our Vault video about the Rangers and the Vanguard. So if you missed that, you could just, the link below, or in the video description right below it, there should be the playlist. If you're watching this on MiniWarGaming or on YouTube, you should see a playlist as well. In this video, we're going to continue our discussion of the stuff from issue 61. We're going to, in here, talk about the Dragoons and the Ironstriders, the walkers. And then after this video is done, we're going to, in the Vault video at the link below, talk about the stuff from issue 62. So the two other units that were released.
Yeah, the Ruststalkers and Infiltrators.
Yes. Now we're not yet talking about the codex because when we're making this video right now, the codex is not yet out. There are things that have been leaked to show how different things work, but we're still not going to cover that quite yet, just because why not cover it once it's actually out and we have all the information rather than just the rumors.
Yeah, we'll wait for the book.
Yeah, and so we'll see what else is coming out at that point as well. So let's talk about the Dragoon and the Ironstrider. So these are the same, basically the same model, just with slightly different configurations to them. So why don't we talk about the Dragoons first?
The Dragoon's kind of a neat one. I mean, it's a 45 base walker with AV 11 all around, which in and of itself, it's kind of nice. It's not the most durable, but the thing is, it's got two really interesting weapons. It's got its standard taser lance, which is kind of cool in and of itself.
So that's the one that we talked about. That is always +2 strength, but it's +3 strength on the charge, and you double your initiative on the charge. And the taser rule, if we remember, is any hits of 6 count as 3 hits, not 1.
Yeah, so that one's cool. But it has the weapon that both of us seem to really, really like, which was the, oh geez, what was that called?
Radium Jezzail.
Yes, that guy. Now that's the one we both really like, and I'm really excited to see how that one's going to go on the table. But because it's being put on a walker, it means that you can move it around, you can get it into position, which is great. So that 30-inch movement isn't really a big hindrance. Even more so when you consider that they have the special rule Doomstrider. And now that one's really cool because it's giving them an extra 3 inches on all their movement. So
yeah, movement, running, and charging. So they move 9 inches, up to 9 inches. And or if they're going through difficult terrain, it's taking your best of 2d6 and then +3. Running +3 is d6 +3, and charging is 2d6 +3. Nothing else in all of any codex anywhere that I am aware of lets you charge more than 12 inches.
Yeah.
But these guys can. That doesn't mean they're the fastest, because obviously something that can move 12 inches and then charge and has fleet, that's technically faster.
Yeah.
But it just gives that extra bit of
this is
safety there.
And it's very reliable.
Yes.
Like being able to rely on a minimum 4-inch movement or a minimum 4-inch or 5-inch charge. That's really cool.
Or 4-inch run.
Or 4-inch run,
if you really need to try to get them somewhere.
Yeah, so it means that this is again a great unit for board control. You can get it where you need to go. It's pretty reliable to get there as well, which is nice. And when you combine it with the Jezzail, you're making sure it's getting into positions you want it to be in. So that 30-inch range on the Jezzail is not as big a hindrance as it would normally be as a result. So
the nice thing about the Radium Jezzail, just so everybody remembers what it is, just in case in all the talking we've forgotten about it, that's the sniper weapon that has the rad rule. And so if you roll a 6 on the to hit, then you have precision shot, and then if you roll 6 on the to wound, you get the sniper stuff, which is AP2, and then you also inflict 2 wounds.
Yeah.
So you're not always going to be guaranteed that the AP2 2 wounds is going to be a precision shot, because you have to have already rolled a 6 to hit. Yeah. So it's only 1 in 36 chance. But because they have 2 shots each, and they get them for free, you can replace their taser lance for free for the Radium Jezzail. And you could have a squadron of easily 3 or 4 of these for pretty cheap, because 4 of them would be 180 points, and all of a sudden you got 8 shots that are sniper weapons that inflict 2 wounds on AP and AP2 when you roll 2 wound of 6 and have a chance to be precision shot as well. So very, very effective I was going to say anti-armor, but I mean like Marine equivalent armor.
Yeah,
3+ or 2+ saves.
They can take on a lot of elite infantry, which is really nice. So those 2-up saves, the Terminators, or like the I can never remember the Lich Guard, for instance.
Yeah,
is another one that they can go after. So I like the model. I have to admit I'm still not sold on the price of it.
You mean
On the cost?
Dollars?
No, like the...
Or the
oh, well,
point
I'm
cost?
not going to talk about price and cost.
So you're talking
and
about
dollars.
point cost.
Point cost, yeah. There's something about the point cost that still, it doesn't sit all that well with me just yet.
You think 45 points is too much?
I don't know. Like it almost seems like it could do to be just an even 40 or something like that. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's AV11 and 2 hull points. Now, there's just something about that. It just seems very flimsy.
Yes, definitely. Any walkers, especially squadrons of walkers, are usually pretty easy to kill because they're usually only 2 hit points each. Now, the nice thing about this is it is armor 11 all around.
That is true.
Whereas your sentinel squadrons are typically armor 10. You could have the armor sentinels.
Yeah.
But then, like if we compare it to an armored sentinel squadron, I don't know the cost off the top of my head, or the points cost, but when you look at them, you have just like a single last cannon or a single burst laser or something like that.
That's fair enough. And this could just be that we're seeing the rules for sort of the first couple times right now, and we haven't seen them on the table yet.
Yeah.
And we haven't really seen how the entire army interacts with each other just yet.
Well, there's the other thing too that we have to look at. There's a couple things. First off, they have searchlights.
Yep.
So they can be used to ignore night fighting. On top of that, they have the Crusader, which, that allows them when they're running, instead of D6 plus 3 inches, because they're Doomstrider, it'll be 2D6, take your best one. And so the nice long run. But the really big thing that they can do is they can also take a Phosphor Serpenta for 10 points. And it's in addition to their weapon. And because they're a walker, they can fire as many weapons as they want. And so they can fire both of those. Now, the Phosphor Serpenta is the weapon that has the Lumigen special rule and lowers cover saves. And so, and the nice thing about it is it's nice when weapons jive together. The Radium Jezzail is not going to really be effective anti-armor.
No.
Because it's a sniper weapon. So,
exactly.
So at most it can hurt armor 10 and it can only glance it because it counts as being strength 4 against armor. It's no longer like the old sniper rule from 6th edition where on a 6 it got D3 extra. So it could actually do pretty well. So you put those two together, and it fires at a squad. It uses its sniper to just knock out. Actually, hold on. I thought this crossed my mind. The Phosphor Serpenta has the rule where it reduces cover saves.
As long as you get a successful hit.
A unit that suffers 1 or more unsaved wound counts as cover save as being 1 point worse than normal until the end of the phase. So you could actually fire that weapon first.
Yeah, you fire it first, and then you
fire your. So you could actually use the weapon to. It's almost like a network marker light, where you can fire in, hope to kill somebody, because if you don't, then it doesn't get the marker light on it. Well, I say marker light, but the Lumigen thing. And then you get to fire your sniper rifles, which do all the cool stuff we talked about. And on top of that, their cover save is 1 worse, which does matter because if you're starting AP2, even the Terminators care about their cover save.
But I'm thinking if that's the route you want to go and you want to get the Phosphor weapon in there, I think it's almost more worthwhile to take the Lance at that point, because the Luminogen will let you reroll your charge distance.
Yeah, you could fire the Phosphorus weapon or the Phosphor weapon or whatever it's called, because the Lumigen token also means that you get to reroll the charge distance. Yeah.
So I almost think that's the better synergy in this case.
There is definitely good synergy there.
Yeah.
But it just depends what you're firing against, because if you have a squad of Marines in cover, then firing the thing, getting AP2 is like big deal. They're going to get a 4-up cover, or if it's night fighting, a 3-up cover. Oh, you can use your searchlight, but that doesn't work until after. Yeah. And so I could see that being a good buff to either, because basically what you're doing is you're either making it a close combat beast. Well, I say beast, but really it's close combat oriented, or you're making it shooting oriented. Yeah. Do you think you'd ever just take them with the taser lances?
You know what? If I was shy on points,
it's the same points cost.
It is the same points cost. I guess it really depends on what you're taking them with. Like if you're taking just a pure Ad Mech army, without looking at any of the other rules at the moment, I mean, there's definitely some places for them. Me personally, I think I love the Jezzail too much right now.
It's the fact that it's AP nothing, because walkers don't automatically get an AP like monstrous creatures do. So he charges in, yay, he's strength 8, initiative 6, AP nothing. Yeah. And he's only got, how many attacks does he have? Oh, wow. 3 attacks, a 4 on the charge. Like that's not, sure, you could have 4 of them, have 16 attacks, your weapon skill's not horrible, but you'll inflict a bunch of wounds, and then either you're hitting low toughness guys, and so it doesn't matter that you've only you've inflicted like, I don't know, 8 or 9 wounds, or you're hitting high toughness guys who are going to have a good save, and so you're not really going to do anything.
You're probably not going to want to run this guy against anyone who has crack grenade stock.
There's also that too.
Yeah. So against like any Marines, for instance, you're probably not going to want to throw them at that.
So what is their use then? What kind? Give me an example of
support.
something that is strength. No, that's just specifically that what they would want to charge into with a strength 8, AP nothing, initiative 6 charge. What would they want? What would be their ideal enemy that they'll get the most effectiveness out of it?
Transports.
Yeah.
Yep, like
Vehicles.
transports, rhinos
Vehicles.
or chimeras or something like that, where they're going to be glancing or penetrating on 3s and 4s.
And remember, 6s also count as 3 hits, not 1. Huh. Yeah, I guess that's right. They would be good against vehicles.
Because even on the first turn of the charge, they could theoretically glance a land raider a couple times, right?
A few times. If there's 4 of them, they have 16 attacks. Out of that 16 attacks, they're going to be hitting on 3s. 6s count as 3 hits. So that's actually, on average, for every die you roll is a hit. So 16 attacks become 16 hits, and they're strength 8, so they're glancing on 6s. But even then, you're only doing land raiders, maybe not. But I think you're right. I think you're right against about the pretty much any other vehicle, because they're going to be striking against the rear armor. They get their strength 5 hammer of wrath, but
or even against knights, that could be interesting.
You mean like these knights?
Yeah, against regular knights. I mean, they'll be on the first turn that they charge in. If you have a couple of them, they're going to be glancing on 5s.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So that's kind of interesting right there.
Yeah, it's just that the return fire from the destroyer weapon. Although they will be initiative 6, so they could.
Well, that's the thing, right? At initiative 6, if you have 3 or 4 of these charging in on a knight, I mean, you might be able to glance a knight to death, which is kind of interesting.
Maybe, just maybe.
So it almost.
So I think you're right, though. The vehicles, the AP dash is what's throwing me off here.
Yeah.
Because things that have a crappy armor save typically are low toughness and easy to kill anyways. And so the strength 8 would be overkill. And things that have a good toughness are the ones with a good armor save, and you're not ignoring it. So who cares how many wounds you're inflicting, because they've got a good armor save, so point for point, you're not going to be making that back. But a vehicle, on the other hand...
I would like to take 4 or 5 of these and just start chasing down wave serpents.
Yeah. Except they're only armor 11, so they'll die quickly. But they do have Dune Strider.
That's the point. They're Dune Striders, so they can sort of keep up with them.
Yeah, especially if you give them the Lumigen weapons, the Phosphor Serpenta, because it can fire at the Wave Serpent and reroll its charge distance.
But yeah, that seems like the role that the Dragoons seem to be. Either light vehicle
or
hunters,
light to medium vehicle
light
hunters.
to medium vehicle hunters, or range support.
Yeah.
With their
okay. I can see the taser thing. That could work. That could work, because the sniper weapon, the Radium Jezzael, is not going to be useful against any vehicles whatsoever. No. Sure, it could possibly glance, but that's a waste.
Yeah.
And its 2 wound rolls of 6 count as 2 wounds, not armor penetration rolls of 6 count as 2. Exactly. So you're not getting any benefits with the other one. So interesting how we can see that. Now, just as a side note as well, the Dune Strider always has this incense cloud around it, which gives it a 5-up cover save. It says a model with this special rule counts as obscured, receiving a 5-up cover save. So it doesn't give it shrouded, which is kind of nice, because then if you have something that you can buff it with to give it shrouded, or in the case of night fighting, giving it stealth, then that cover save will be buffed. So he can stand out in the open, and he can benefit from more than one thing that buffs his cover save.
Yeah, it does seem like that will help keep it alive a little bit longer, which is nice.
Yeah.
Again, though, I mean, the 45 points, I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, but the 5+ cover save can actually be an annoyance. Sure, there's things that can ignore cover. We all know that you can marker light them, or you can bring certain of the Necron units, or there's lots of ways to ignore cover. But a lot of the things that ignore cover are usually lower strength.
That is true.
And so the things that are really anti-vehicle ignore cover, those aren't quite as common. And so they're pretty much quite often be getting their 5+ cover. And there's nothing more annoying than hitting something that should be nice and squishy, and it making 1 or 2 5-up covers, and it's just you just don't quite get through them all.
I think we've both been in that situation.
Oh, way too many times.
Way too many times.
It's like if it was a 2-up cover, I'd be okay with it making them. But it's when it's 5-up, it's like it's laughing at you when it ignores one of your penetrating hits that could actually destroy it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not open-topped, which is nice. Oh, it is open-top.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes it even more squishy.
Yeah, that is another one of the issues right there.
Yeah.
So it means when things do get through, they're gonna cause some damage.
Yeah, any penetrating hits are possibly going to destroy it.
And I think the open-topped is actually what's giving me the hesitation at the cost the most, more than anything else. Because open-top stuff is notoriously easy to take down.
Yeah, yeah.
So
even without any AP to your weapons.
Now, the fact that you can run these guys in squadrons, that might be the balancer right there. They all have the 5-up cover save.
And I think that's it. I've seen it time and time again, even with like Scout Sentinels or Killicans, or what other Walker Squadrons do you get? Or even like the Tau the piranhas, squadrons of them. They're all low armor things, but because they're in a squadron, it all of a sudden just it acts differently, and they're able to soak up more of the shots. And so that also works against them sometimes because they can get more easily assaulted in the case of walkers locked in combat. There's one other thing that they do have that we should point out. They have a broad spectrum data tether, and what that does is pretty much any Ad Mech model within 6 inches, it says those with the Doctrine Imperative special rule, which so far I've seen every single Ad Mech unit have, gets +1 to their leadership. Yeah. So a 6-inch bubble around a squadron of vehicles is huge, as I've seen with the Triarch Stalkers for the Necrons. And that bubble giving everybody +1 leadership, all of a sudden you go from 8-9 leadership to 9-10. Yeah. And even without their sergeant, still having that leadership at 9 makes things much more survivable. It's not cumulative if they take their own upgrades at data tether. They only get the 1 leadership once.
But it does mean that they're less likely to run off the table, which is kind of nice.
Yes.
Like it really strikes me as they are a great all-round support unit.
Especially, yeah, so you throw the sniper on them, and they can kind of move up and jostle around with the other Skitarii, whether they're Rangers, Vanguard, or the other stuff we'll talk about in the next video. And they buff their leadership and throw in their phosphor weapons. You can help others fire at them as well to get the -1 cover save, which I still think is cumulative. But that's obviously very arguable just because of what we talked about in our other video. Yeah. And yeah, they could cause a lot of damage. I still think my favorite will be to bring them with the sniper. Just because, as much as you're right about the fact that the Taser Lance is good against light and medium vehicles, we've already got stuff to deal with that.
That is true. I mean, there's enough haywire running around that
we got cheap haywire.
Yes, very cheap haywire.
So, and we're going to get even more of that when we look at the next video into the next issue.
No, and you're right. It seems like the Lance itself, while there is a purpose for it, it seems like there's other things that fit the purpose better.
Yeah. And I still think that even with the one when it brings the sniper, it's still good to give it the Phosphor Serpent if you have the points for it. It adds 10 points each, which is not nothing. If you have a squadron of 4, it's almost the cost of a 5th one. And then you say, well, but that's the thing that gives them 4 strength 5 AP4 shots as well. Yeah. And allows the rerolls and stuff, although they're probably not going to be using it for the rerolling charge distance because they're a sniper unit.
No, but other units can use it for the rerolling charges.
Yeah. And board control will be great with these guys. Yeah. Doomstrider will give tons of board control.
And again, that is the name of the game in 7th edition these days.
If you're playing Maelstrom, which you should be, then anything that has mobility you should learn to fear. And this thing definitely has mobility.
Well, it's one reason Eldar are so dominant right now.
Yeah, because you can get everywhere. So that brings us to the other unit, the Ironstrider, the one that's in the front of the box. And essentially it's exactly the same, except the stat line is almost identical, except the weapon skill is 1 less and the number of attacks is 1 less.
It's also 10 points more.
And yeah, and this one's a heavy support as opposed to the fast attack. So that alone tells us what Games Workshop's, or what the game designers' intents were. So let's see if it actually reads that way. So this is the one we talked about, the Cognis stuff.
Yes, I actually really like this one. And again, it comes down to the Cognis weapons. The fact that it's stock a Cognis autocannon is really nice. So you have
it's the one that you seem to prefer over in our discussion.
Yes. Well, it's a twin-linked strength 7 AP4 weapon with decent range, and it has Cognance. So if you're snap shooting in any situation, you're hitting on the 5s and not the 6s.
Yes.
And that means you can.
And you're twin-linked.
And you're twin-linked.
So you're hitting on 5s, re-rolling against flyers.
Yeah. So that means you have a great chance against flyers. It gives them a little bit more protection against being assaulted. Because if like hitting on 5s twin-linked, that can make the difference between 1 or 2 models and 1 or 2 inches of charge.
Yeah, a lot of flyers are lower armor as well. Armor 10, 11, sometimes 12.
Outside of Forge World, I don't know of any flyer that's armor 13.
No, and so your strength 7 is plenty.
Yeah.
You're at the very least going to force them to jink.
Yep.
So that's what we were talking about before, is if you force a flyer to jink, and it's a gunning, like it's a flyer that's not just a transport, but it's actually a gunner, then, or a bomber or whatever, then you really decrease its effectiveness. And so on top of that, it's got an interesting rule. It does. This has precision shots.
Yes.
Why would that ever actually matter?
Last cannon sniping?
Yeah, I guess. You fire your last cannons and pick off special weapons or characters, but honestly, how often do you think that's going to come up?
Oh, you know what? There's the one...
They're twin-linked, so they can have more chances.
There's the Tyranid formation, where you can where you can take the Hive Tyrant with a whole bunch of gargoyles.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll still have the 2-up.
Yeah, it's a two. That's what it is. It's a 2-up lookout, sir.
But it might be fun to throw to that. But yeah, it's an
That seems very specific.
It is very specific.
That one formation that hardly anybody brings anymore because it doesn't even allow it to fly once all the gargoyles are dead. Or we're going to use it against that guy.
Exactly.
Like, you can just charge in and issue a challenge.
This is the hard counter to it. You heard it here first.
Exactly.
No, it's an interesting rule, but the fact that it's not a Skyfire vehicle means that you can still fire at squads, at other units, right?
Yeah.
So
you just don't have enough shots for precision shot to matter.
No, you don't.
It's just, if you're firing last cannons, that's even more the case. And if you're firing your autocannon, then who cares about precision fire because
maybe against things
that
like
Marine
Thunderfire,
will make its 3+ save.
Against Thunderfire cannons. If you precision shot the las cannon and force the Tech Marine to take it.
Yeah, you're still going against the toughness of the unit, but
you're still wounding on it too.
Yeah.
And then if you force it on the because I don't know if a Tech Marine can look answer to the Thunderfire cannon.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
Usually you put them behind it.
So.
Or you put them in front of it to grant its 2-up save,
Yeah.
But
yeah, either way, like there's uses for it.
It's nice you don't have to pay for it.
Yes.
Because I would never pay for it.
No.
It's like even if it was just a 5-point upgrade, 5 points per model, give them precision shot. Heck, if it was a 1-point upgrade, I'd be like, I'll use my 5 points elsewhere.
I guess you also have to think about it this way though. If you're taking a unit or a squadron of 6 of these with the Cognus autocannons,
that's 12 shots.
12 shots.
Twin-linked.
Twin-linked. You're bound to get a couple 6s in there.
Yeah.
Right? So
I'm just saying, like, but then what? So who cares? Because if
you're
it's
putting on
AP4,
special weapons, heavy weapons.
But it's AP4, so most things that you're going to care about sniping, they're going to have a better armor save than that.
No, that's true.
And so they'll be like, okay, whatever. This one against me, my 3+ armor, I just made it, so we're good.
No, that is true.
Like, don't get me wrong. There will be situations where it ends up being like the player's glad they had it, but it's just not one of those things that you can generally really count for anything when you're playing the game.
Yeah, it's not going to make or break a game.
No.
At least
well, it can.
In most cases, it's not going to make or break.
You just can't depend on it.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a, you don't, like the squad of Vanguard or the squad of Rangers who all have the galvanic rifles and they're all firing and with precision shots because the galvanic rifles have that. That's cool because you have so many guys firing. Lower strength, so they're going against infantry, and so that might come up, but this is just, sure you can have the same number of shots as them in a squadron of 6, but you're paying a lot more points.
It almost seems out of place here.
Yeah, it does.
Odd. Now,
if it was on the, no, I guess you wouldn't need it on the other guys because they get precision shot when they take the snipers.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Now, of course, with this one, it is also open-topped as well, so that does kind of make it a little bit less vulnerable.
And the last cannon is quite expensive.
Yeah.
You go from 55 points to 75 points.
I can't see myself using the las cannon.
Well, it depends what you're playing. If you, flyers, sure, but what if you're not up against flyers? What if you're up against heavy armor? What if you're up against Lehman Russes, or you're up against Necrons?
Arc weapons. Okay, well, against Necrons maybe, but like that's the thing. Like, aside from Necrons, most other things you're going to be firing the las cannon at, your arc pistol or your arc weaponry will probably do the trick just as well.
It's just that it has longer range.
It does have longer range, which is nice, but.
So I could see it being with either. It's cost more with the las cannon, but the las cannon is technically more powerful. The 2 strength 7 AP4 shots as opposed to 1 strength 9 AP2. Yeah. It'll be ignoring armor. It can actually hurt vehicles a lot more, but there's less shots.
Yeah.
So, and they're both twin linked, so I don't mind there being less shots. I usually don't like things that are less shots because I usually miss. But twin link basically says, nah, you get double the number of rolls in case you totally whiff it.
That is true.
So yeah. So both interesting choices. I think for sure I'm going to be, I was just going to say I'm going to be bringing the Dragoon more often if I was playing Adeptus Mechanicus, but the anti-flyer capabilities of the Ironstrider definitely are appealing.
I do really like that. I do feel that of the 2 Walker options, the Ironstrider, I think, does edge the Dragoon out a little bit, which is unfortunate because I love the look of the Dragoon.
I don't know. I think I'm more partial to the Dragoon.
Yeah?
Doesn't matter. We're going to make both of them for the army.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that at the beginning, the very
yeah.
beginning of the series, that we are actually creating an Adeptus Mechanicus army for the studio, and Leland's going to be in charge of doing that. Yeah. So he'll become our Ad Mech player. Well, he'll be the main Ad Mech player. It's yours, mine.
My army, back off.
Hence why we have all the Titans. Yeah. I'll take the Titans, he'll take the Adeptus Mechanicus, and probably win because of all the haywire.
Because all the haywire, yeah, exactly.
So I think that's everything we need to talk about for the Dragoon and the Ironstrider.
I think so. There's not much else there.
Okay, so thank you for watching this. The link below will take you to the Vault video where we're going to talk about the new units from the White Dwarf issue 62, the Runestalker,
Ruststalker, and Infiltrator.
And Infiltrator, thank you. Those are the other two that have been, so far, the rules have been released for it as of the making of this video. So go ahead and click the link below. If you're not a Vault member, you can still click it. Get a free 7-day trial, so you get instant access to all the videos that are already in there. There's no restrictions to how much access you have while you're on the trial. And if you decide not to keep it, you can cancel. We won't make you pay, we promise. Even if you end up forgetting to cancel and you pay, you have 30 days to get a full money back, get all your money back, even if you got the yearly, it doesn't matter. We don't want your money if you're not happy with the Vault. And the majority of people who sign up for the Vault end up staying because they do like it. And it helps support us, and we really do appreciate that. So go ahead, click the link below. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.